Welcome all. Today's topic is going to be focused on space. So, how to find one, how to acquire one, and how to design a library of things. This is going to be a little bit of a different session than we've had thus far. So, instead of having a single presenter or two co-presenters, we're going to be running this as a series of case studies because finding space can be so different for different groups. And depending on you know what cities you're in, what other circumstances, projects you might need, or available partners that might be in your communities. So we're going to be hearing from Keenan Phillips about the Asheville Tool Library. With that, we're going to get started. And I'm actually going to, rather than passing it right to Keenan, I'm going to start by talking a little bit more about Asheville because I was involved in co-founding Asheville Tool Library back in, well, we get started on the project in 20, and that's where I want to actually begin is the kind of the building community around finding the first space. And we had a series of spaces that we thought were going to come together that fell apart, and a bunch of amazing partnerships. And some of them were, we were working with the local food co-op. You can see myself there in the middle on the far left with other co-founders, Julian, Dominic, and Nick Letts. And we were working to partner with the food co-op because they already had this awesome bike kitchen in the basement, and but there was all sorts of problems with the bike kitchen because it wasn't as accessible as it needed to be. The space that they had available for us had some leaks and all sorts of things, and so we had to pull out of that space, and we ended up going into what we thought was going to be an amazing community center. And after spending, and that's the picture on the far right, having a whole crew, we remodeled a chunk of this building. We spent about 3 months building it out and starting to collect the tools there. And then we found out that the building was sold out from underneath us. And so it really speaks to the need for finding permanent space whenever possible. But we were not thwarted. And in 2016, the Tool Library opened in its first location, which was in the basement of another space, originally called Open Space, changed their name to Base Camp later. And that was just an amazing opportunity because it was in the center of town. It was easily accessible, but the issues were that there was not that much space, and so the design for the space was super important. And so one of our other co-founders, Ben Harper, is very good with SketchUp and did a pre-design of the whole space to be able to get the maximum efficiency use out of it. And as you can see, this is the original kind of mock-ups, and this is how it ended up looking, which was very similar when you look at the storage and everything else. And so this was, key just to getting started. Again, it was only, I think, about 350 square feet. So it was pretty small. Very tight quarters. There was storage that had to be outside of the building in the parking lot, but it was the necessary step to get to what was a home for 4 years, and really was able to build it out. And this was a spot that was the partnership that got this was that there was a transmission shop, which they didn't need as much space as they had once needed. And so a pretty affordable rate opened up, one section of the transmission shop, which had its own facilities and everything, to the tool library. And you can see the kind of first picture there, and then the picture on the right after it was all built out. And this picture was taken just a month before the tool library had to move. And the transmission shop, once again, after many years in business, the owner was retired, and Keenan can speak to this more, and lost the space. And so they decided to sell the building. And so the building was being redeveloped, and that led to the finding of the new, hopefully permanent space. And for that, I'm going to hand it off to Keenan.
Thanks so much, Tom. And just want to say thanks to you and Ben and Kira and so many people that were around in the early phases. I can't imagine how challenging that must have been. So I started getting involved with the Asheville Tool Library a little bit before COVID in the space that Tom was showing on the former slide. And Yeah, we had a great time at that location. It was very close to town, so accessible to people from all around at. And I think that really helped us established. When we left there, we had a little bit over 600 members. We're getting close to 900 now. But yeah, our we had a 3-year lease, and the owners of the building were retiring, getting out of it, and they said, it's been great, but the lease is over and we don't want to renew it. And we had already been kind of feeling like we were maxing out that space and wanting to be able to do more, specifically programming, teaching classes and other kinds of things. It was really a great thing. We started searching. The board was kind of in flux at the time. There were only 3 of us on the board, and we all searched as hard as we could. I ended up teaching a workshop at a place called Smith Millworks, which is an old greenhouse complex where they do ornamentals. And I know other friends that have spaces that they're renting there. They've had really good experiences with that landlord, and he was very supportive of our mission and what we're excited about doing. So he was actually able to find some space within one of the warehouses they had there. So this is the warehouse. It's about 50 feet in the short dimension and 100 in the long dimension. The blank space over to the right is actually occupied by a woodworker and then a lawn maintenance company, which is pretty nice. The woodworker's not there much, and the lawn maintenance company, they come, they get their equipment in the morning, they load it up, they're gone all day, and then they unload in the evening. So there's about 15 minutes of noise each day. But basically, as far as designing this new space, we took the best parts of our design at our former space and kept them. So we had a set of shelving we called the 100 and 200 series, as well as the 300 and 400 shelves. So basically, everything stayed in the same places they were on those shelves and just got kind of put into the new space. And then we looked at what things we were really lacking, and one of them was much space for maintenance, which is a big need of any tool library or tool rental service. You're going to have to be fixing things. So we really increased the size of our maintenance area, which made our maintenance folks very happy. And then we left a good bit of space flexible. Over to the left in the center is a big garage door. And that's really nice when the weather's nice to open that up. And we've got this flexible space. So when we're hosting workshops, we're teaching them usually in that space. And now we're also able to host something called the WNC Repair Cafe. Maybe you've heard of repair cafes happening all over the world, but that's been really awesome to have a little extra space to be able to share. I've got a few more slides of the design, just, yeah, closer up of the maintenance area. Things changed for sure, but we at least knew when it was time to move from one space to the other, and we had a couple big U-Haul trucks and tons of volunteers. We had kind of a plan of, okay, this is where things are at least going initially. We left room for adjustment as we went along and found out what our needs were and where we wanted to shift things around. So just a little better view of the other corner. We didn't end up doing the desk and couch in this area. We've actually just recently gotten them up front to kind of have a community lounging area, and that's really sweet. And then this over here, this building actually has 2 bathrooms and then a kitchen and break room that we have use of, but other people that use the building facility also do. So we are using those 2 walls to the outside of it. We actually have consumables where it says ladders were, and then the weed eaters are slightly further back towards maintenance. And somebody was asking, I saw pop up in the chat, how high these ceilings are. There, I think it's around 16 feet. So over to the left of the picture on the bottom left, you can see some kind of lofted space, which we are working on building out. Some folks are getting some printmaking equipment and going to be doing some stuff up there, hosting classes as well as having open and private working hours. The picture on the bottom right, that is I believe that's the 300 and 400 units. That's myself on the left and other board member Stephanie on the right. And then the top picture is the same shelves, just a little more filled out. We've got some racking overhead that an awesome volunteer built with some lighting. I don't know if it's a tip, but the landlord here I mentioned is really into our mission and what we're doing. I just found out at our board meeting this past Sunday evening that loft space, he likes the idea of what we're wanting to do up there so much that he's going to offer it rent free for 6 months. I think it was going to be $250 a month. He loves what we're doing. He said you can trial it out and we can talk about extending that even. And then he's also got some greenhouse space that he's allowing us to extend into rent free to try out some other things. So that is really helping us with being able to try things out, expand and increase our offerings without taking on too much risk, having a really awesome and supportive.
So I've got a question for you. You were showing the kind of layout, we were looking at the design version, not the actual photos. I saw there was a section that said fuels. So do you rent or lend out fuel powered tools, chainsaws, anything else like that? And if so, I know a lot of tool libraries have chosen not to. Are there any things that you have to do from a safety perspective and any additional kind of maintenance issues with offering tools like that?
Absolutely. So yeah, we offer several fuel things, and fuel things can be tricky because some use just regular gasoline and have their own oil tank. Some are two-stroke machines where you mix in a little bit of oil with the gas, but there are different ratios. So that's probably the biggest reason we keep our own fuel cabinet, and we actually just provide fuel with those tools. It's easier to make sure that good gasoline in the proper mix is going to go into our tool and really reduces maintenance. We have had a few gasoline tools like a concrete saw. That one twice, I think the engine was rebuilt because somebody put the wrong fuel in it and the piston rings blew up. So we finally converted to electric powered concrete. So I don't know what it was with that one tool that was hard for people to get the fuel mix correct. We actually have a proper fuel cabinet. I think that is the National Fire Protection Agency is the one that gives guidelines on that. You build them with simple plywood. They do give specifications. It has to be so thick and the doors have to close in a certain way and stuff. But pretty big liability. We've got probably 40 gallons of fuel at a time when our cabinet is totally full.
Thank you for that. Another question in the chat was about asking for more details about the supportive landlord, wondering if you're given any kind of subsidized rental charges in addition to this kind of free number of months usage of an additional space.
We only found a few spaces that were even seemingly feasible in our search, and we didn't even get so far as getting like exact prices on those other ones. So I don't know, like comparing to the rest of the market, how good or not it is, but we're paying, I want to say it's about $1 a square foot, which seems pretty reasonable for smooth concrete pad in a fairly insulated building that's got a heating system. But the landlords before, I would say, were definitely giving us a great deal. They were getting offers of 4 to 5 times what we were paying in rent for that space, and most importantly, the location.
Yeah. And just speaking of the location, you moved from being basically South Slope of Asheville, North Carolina, pretty centrally located, to being kind of towards the edge of West Asheville, which there's a lot of stuff going on in West Asheville, but you're out towards the far side of it. Have you had any issues with accessibility for members with that move? And if so, how have you addressed that?
Yeah, that was definitely one of the hardest parts of our move. At first, we were trying to stay close to where we were to make sure we were able to continue serving our membership. We use the My Turn program, and so we're actually able to export a specific spreadsheet with just zip codes of all of our members, and then I've put that into Google, I think it was Google Earth Map, or I don't know, something Google Mappy thing, and look at where our concentrations of folks were. And we found that we are actually, while we were moving away from some people, we were moving closer to a lot more people and not further from quite a few more people. So we felt pretty good about that.
Thank you, Keenan, very much for talking about Asheville.